Dudes to Dads, brought to you by Dad University, is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. Again, we're back for more. Everyone's been waiting for us.
Yes, of course.
This is episode 182, and the topic for tonight: does grounding your kid work? What do you think, Alan?
I don't know. I'm not I didn't get grounded.
I'd say no. All right, done.
You done? Is that our whole
done.
debate?
Yeah.
Our dad's debate. Yeah. It's for me. It doesn't feel like that's the best way to do it. I guess some people react to negative stimuli, but I don't know if I do, and I don't know if I would want to raise my kids that way. So.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Episode 105, we talked about some of this. We talked about punishment.
In general,
yeah, we talked about how punishing your kids doesn't work, and this obviously goes along with that, but we discussed sort of why people punish their kids, and we provided some tips on what to do, how you can improve it. But one of the things I wanted to expand on was talking about specific scenarios that happen with your kids and how to handle them. Because what I get, or what I've been getting, is when I say something like this, like, hey, grounding doesn't work, and they're like, well, what about this situation? How are you? What's the consequence then? And so everybody always has a comeback of some kind, or a thought of like, well, it doesn't work in that situation, or this, it does work here, or something like that. So I'd like to challenge that. I think parents often solve many problems with grounding. Grounding seems to be, a big parenting trap because we think that it works.
It's like a nonviolent punishment, right? Is that the whole idea behind grounding? Is that like, and I say violent meaning like spanking or doing something.
Yeah, I mean, somebody might think, it's better than that.
Yeah, it's like, it's an alternative. I'm taking something they want to do away from them.
Right. I'm going to take something away from them as a consequence because they did something wrong.
Right.
Or they did something bad, or they did something I didn't want them to do. So as a result, they're going to be penalized.
Yeah.
They're going to be punished for that. So, but the reality is it doesn't work. Let's look at even a more extreme situation. Prisons. Okay. I looked up a stat. About 77% of prisoners who are released get arrested again.
Right.
Okay. So now I get it. There's other factors involved with maybe somebody who is going to prison, or childhood could have been different.
Sure.
Other circumstances. But if we look at the fact that, the reason we're putting them into prison is to obviously, one, keep them from harming more people or doing whatever they were doing again.
Right.
The problem is that when they're in prison, so punishing them doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
Because when they're done with their quote punishment, they get out, they're done with their punishment, they've served their time, they just do it again.
Right.
Or they do something else. So it really doesn't work to that extreme in that sense. So kind of like prison, grounding doesn't work.
Government grounding.
Government, or parent grounding. Yeah, or parent prison.
Yeah.
Here's the thing is, when I was growing up, I noticed that, and I did notice this, that I was disciplined differently than many of my friends around me. I may go knock on their door and find out like, nope, sorry, Timmy's grounded. He can't come out and play. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean ground? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Because I'd never got grounded.
Yeah, I didn't either. Maybe that's why I think the same way. Like, I mean, there was never, I don't remember a time anyone saying, hey, you're grounded.
Right. I mean, so, the kid was probably confined to their room, they're on house arrest.
Right. Yeah.
They're not able to play, use whatever device that they're, whatever it is, play a game, anything. They got to sit in their room and read, or sit in their room and do something.
Right.
The problem with many of these situations is like, it's not even that big of a punishment. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's like, it's not.
Well, that's what you want to do in the first place.
Right.
I just want to go to my room.
Oh, darn. I have to sit and relax. But my parents took a little bit different of an approach. When I did something wrong, and I did, it's not like things didn't happen. I lit fires. I may have took something. I, said bad words. I mean, whatever it was, like I did that stuff too.
Right.
It's just my parents, and especially my mom, handled it differently. I mean, they would explain why it was wrong or, what I did wrong, and then figure out ways to fix it. And we'd talk about it. And they would talk about like sort of what's the impact of what I did, or, who was affected by it, or, and that starts when when we were very, very little. So it's not like I'm saying, you parent this other way, and then all of a sudden when they're 15 and they get in trouble, you're going to handle it this way and it's going to work. You do need to start when they're very young. Otherwise, habits will just, perpetuate themselves.
Yeah.
So it was funny though. When I was thinking about this, I do recall I was probably about 10 years old or so. My mom got so upset with me. I don't even remember what I did. I just remember she was so upset, and she yelled and she just said, "You're grounded." And I remember like thinking, okay, like you've never done that before. And so then she like came up to my room in like 15, 20 minutes or something like that. And I was like, forget what I said, like grounding's stupid. Or she says like, I can't even ground you. I feel this isn't the right way to do it. So she just realized, and so I remember too, like actually calling her out a bit on it, which was just, as a kid, like, Mom, you couldn't even ground me. Like, but we had that kind of relationship that, she had such great respect for us that it was about teaching us what was right and wrong, and, to do that. So, the way that she handled it, she taught me right from wrong, and she taught and my father to teach me how to make the good decisions that were best for myself. And not what was best for her, but really it's like what was best for me. And so I'm not giving myself credit at all. I mean, this is, for being moralist, for being moral and honest and those kinds of things. It's like it really was the parents who parented in a certain way that allowed you to do it. My siblings are the same way, And so it's not just luck of the draw. It is really the way that they're parented. So I wanted to kind of touch on it, like I said in the beginning, a couple scenarios that, a child might do something wrong, and normally a parent would probably ground them for these things. Yeah. If in a normal situation. But I want to discuss like how to handle it without grounding so that, your child can learn something and what is the end result that we want out of this. So I'll give you an example. What if your kid got in trouble at school for, this could be a boy or girl, making out with their boyfriend or girlfriend behind the bleachers. So the teachers catch them, they get in trouble, maybe they go to detention or something like that. They have to then deal with their parents, and their parents are like, you're grounded. You can't see this person. Right. You guys are trouble, blah, 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 whatever. So what does that do if you ground them? You have any thoughts? I mean,
that makes them want to see each other more.
Probably makes them want to see each other more, and if anything, will make them better at sneaking around.
Yeah, they're going to get better at. Yeah, exactly. I just won't get caught.
Right. I'm gonna sneak around better. We're gonna go to a place, but
the bleachers obviously is not where I need to go. I need to go somewhere a little more remote and hidden.
Right. And so here's the thing: is like your kid. It depends. You have to figure out what are you mad at. Are you mad at your child is growing up and doing that?
I don't know. Why would you be mad at?
Well, I'm just saying, like hey, if it's, whether boy or girl, you might be like, hey, why are you doing that? At this age. Yeah, I know. So we know exactly why. But maybe they're too young. Like you think that they're too young.
Yeah, there might be some element of that.
Yeah. I mean, for what they were doing. But more importantly, they got in trouble. They're breaking rules. So you got to abide by the rules. And that's the part, to talk about like, hey, there's rules in place. You can't do that. And so we teach them, hey, you have to obey the rules. I understand that you are, you really like this person and you want to see them, but you're going to have to obey the rules. And the fact is, like, if they got detention, that already was the punishment. Like taking away their phone for a week or not allowing them to see the person for the week is not going to work.
Right.
So you have to also, you have to understand, like, the consequence in itself is what the school did, or, that kind of thing. You don't need to give an additional punishment.
Right.
Them coming home is just, and punishing them is not going to help in any way.
Yeah.
It's about teaching them. If you watch my videos on the fatherhood formula that I did on Dad University YouTube videos, I just had one about the fatherhood formula, and I want to say number 6 was about coaching.
Yeah.
And it's about acting as yourself as a coach rather than a parent. And we've talked about this, about teaching your child how to act and life skills.
Right.
And so, you're coaching them, and that's what this is about. So here's another scenario. Your child hits another kid at school and goes to the principal's office, and gets in trouble, whatever. And your child wasn't defending themselves. Like, they struck first punch, they got upset in some way. So it wasn't like they're, what some people would say, in the right.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Like, they did something wrong, they hit the other person. So, they got angry and hit him. So what does grounding the child in this situation do? Well, one, it's not related to the situation.
Right.
So, okay, they got in trouble at school. Now you're going to say, hey, you're grounded. You don't get to play after school, or you're going to miss soccer practice, or you're going to miss cheerleading, whatever it is. I mean, it could be a girl too. Say, hey, you're missing this. You're not going to be able to do anything fun because you got in a fight. So does that teach them anything?
Right.
No. So the way that I might suggest to do this would be, first, you obviously have to talk to your child about hitting and how it's not okay and it's not acceptable to hit somebody else. It's not the way that we're going to solve problems. And then the other is to require the child to apologize to the other child, potentially the principal as well, or the school, and maybe to do something nice for the child that you hit.
Right.
So it's not just apologizing, but it's actually doing something nice. I think in the parenting classes when I took it, it was called a makeup, and let the child come up with a solution.
Yeah.
So asking them, say, hey, what about doing something nice for this person that you were mean to? What do you think you could do? And they might say, well, I could bring them something as a treat, or maybe I could help them do XYZ at school.
Right.
Something like that, where they're making up for it, and so that makes them realize that that's not the way to solve the problem, and that they need to be nice to people and such. So, I guess it's a different situation if you're upon a situation in which, like, the child's defending themselves or they were being teased or whatever, but we still don't want them solving their problems with that. So that was something that I think would be important. So here's another scenario: your kid steals something from a store. Now, they don't get caught by the store, so whoever doesn't see them, but you find it in their room. What do you do?
That's a good one. Yeah, it's hard to say what would happen there. I mean,
and they make the excuse, well, a friend gave it to me, whatever. But meanwhile, it's like a watch, or it's something expensive. Yeah. And I'm assuming a younger child too.
Yeah,
a little bit younger.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, is it the area where you go back to the store and help?
Yeah, so that's a good scenario.
Bring it back, and you're going to tell them what you did, and then we can apologize.
Yeah, because I think imagine you ground them.
Yeah,
that just makes them better at avoiding getting caught.
Right.
Okay. Oh shoot. Well, if I steal something, I just got to hide it better.
If I bury my treasure.
Right. I got to hide it better. Yeah. So here's the thing too: is to realize, especially when they are very young, it's pretty common for younger kids to steal something.
Yeah.
Like, this is not that your child is a delinquent and they're going off the deep end and they're going to go to juvenile hall. Yeah. Like, that's not, like, especially when they're young, it's like they really don't understand ownership. They still don't have a huge concept of money.
Yeah.
That's like they're testing their boundaries and stuff like that.
And if they do understand, it might be just some weird thrill they did that day.
Yeah, they're not really understanding it, but it's obviously important to curb that so that the pattern doesn't continue. Right. But when you ground them, you get them in trouble, whatever, they're not inclined to stop that. Mm-hmm. That's not teaching them. It's just teaching, like, okay, well, if I get caught, I'm going to get in trouble, so I just better not get caught.
Right.
That really is the philosophy. I mean, it's not much of a deterrent. Granted, there are some countries where if you steal, you get your hand cut off. I have heard that is a deterrent.
Yeah.
But if that's what you want, a society you want to build, that's up to you. But, I think, you take them back to the store. They apologize to the manager or the store owner and give the item back. You discuss how stealing is not acceptable and not okay. And then maybe they do something, maybe they offer something to the store manager. Like, can I help in some way? Can I fix something? Can I do a makeup? But also too, you got to realize, something like that, they could go to jail.
Right.
And jail is a lot, is not a good place.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much that threat is important. Me personally, I don't like teaching someone because of focusing on the consequence to themselves. It's often the consequence to other people or the fact that it's just wrong to do.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt somebody else. I mean, it could hurt yourself.
Sure.
But you're responsible for yourself. I mean, if you want to steal something with the risk of getting caught and then you get caught, you got caught. I'm not going to feel bad for you.
Right.
Yeah. So teaching our kids that it's that it's stealing from somebody else is not okay, and helping them understand that. Would you want someone to take something from you and then, that kind of thing.
Right. So, right. Giving them some kind of empathy towards things. Yeah.
For sure. All right, so here's another one. Your child talked back to the teacher and got detention. Mm-hmm. So what do? Is grounding them. They get home, you find out that they were completely disrespectful to their teacher, and they ground them. You're like, you're grounded for a week. You're not doing anything. There is no way you're going to talk to a teacher like that. Mm-hmm. You are grounded. Right. Again, what is that? I mean, maybe they would learn that. I don't know. I don't know, but detention is their punishment. Mm-hmm. Meaning they got in trouble from the teacher. You punishing them at home, what does that have to do with the actions at school, other than because you're telling them that the behavior is unacceptable? Right. I mean, they don't want to get detention. You're going to complicate the situation by thinking, well, I don't want to get detention and I'm going to get home. I'm going to get, at home, I'm going to get in trouble. Right. But the reason they don't want to do it, or you don't want them doing it, is because it's disrespectful, not because that they're going to get detention. Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's the reason, and so focusing on that as the reason, not because you're going to get in trouble. Right. It's because it's wrong to do. Mm-hmm. We are not disrespectful to those people that are in the authority and are trying to teach you. And it's disrespectful to all the other students around there. Right. So make them apologize. Mm-hmm. Ask how they can make it up to the teacher. Maybe it's writing a letter or doing something, but helping the teacher in class, but allowing them to come up with something. I think that's part of the important thing too, is how can you make it up to the teacher? Discuss being disrespectful and how, if you want to have respect, you want the teacher to respect you, you're going to have to respect the teacher as well. And, it's not fair to the other students either, if you're causing disruptions and those kinds of things. Right. So, oftentimes, and here I look back for myself, I was very, very talkative in class. Mm-hmm. I would often, I recall I would get in trouble. I would get sent out to the corner or to the drain, or I would have to, and I wasn't being mean or anything. I would talk all the time. Yeah. Go figure. Being disruptive. As it's now worked for me in my later years. But I talked. I loved to talk, and I was talking to my friends and whatever. And so I got in trouble a lot because I was disruptive. And I remember getting in trouble over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. So me going to the drain did not deter it. What's the drain? It was there was a drain outside, and we were you had to stand over the drain. It was embarrassing, I guess, or something. I just remember the drain. I'd go there. I got sent out in class, and I was sitting in the drain. I mean, but I do remember a couple conversations. There was an aide who was a friend of mine's mother, and I remember her talking about is this the way that you want to be seen, and that kind of stuff. And then also my parents, because I don't think I told them. I'm sure I didn't. Mm-hmm. So until they found out, and then they began to talk about that kind of stuff too, where it's listen, if you want to talk, you got to do it at recess. While you're in class, you got to find some other way.
Yeah.
Whether it's participating or whatever, that if you really need to talk, you got to figure that out.
Sure.
And they were, I remember them being like instructive about it. Like, how can we solve this? Not, you can't do this, you're disrespectful, blah, blah. It was like, how do we solve it? And we come up with something where you're able to talk, because obviously you want to talk and not get in trouble.
Right.
And so that was kind of my thing. So I think in all of these scenarios, the punishment just doesn't teach us about what is right. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. That the child just learns to be better at avoiding punishment. So whether that's lying, stealing better, like you said, burying the treasure better. Many, I'm sure, and I'd love the feedback, many will argue like, well, there's no consequence then to some of these scenarios. Like, well, then, that's not right.
Yeah.
But I would argue that they do have consequences, whether it is the detention for school or, hey, if you steal, you're going to do something outside school, you could potentially go to jail.
Yeah. And it's like instilling the value that they should feel bad when you do bad things to people or hurt somebody or whatever it is. Like, I don't go popping people in the head. I can probably get away with it. Right. I don't, because I don't.
Yeah. It doesn't teach the right behavior.
Yeah.
We want to reinforce good behavior.
Yeah.
Ignore bad behavior.
Right.
So that's really what it is. Here's the bottom line. We're trying to raise ethical and moral children.
Sure.
Like we all, I think, want to.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Time. Yeah.
So punishing them isn't the best way to get them there. There's better ways. It's talking about it. It's explaining it to them. And I disagree with the fact that there has to be a consequence for everything.
Right.
When a child, especially a child, makes a mistake, what is there? Maybe there is a consequence, but a lot of it is the natural consequence of what it is. I mean, a child feeling horrible is a consequence.
Yeah.
When the child does something and then they cry and they're feeling actually really horrible about what they did.
Yeah.
That is the consequence in many times.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to punish them at that point.
I punish. That's funny. So that's my mom had always said that. She goes, I never had to punish you. You would punish yourself way worse. And so that's how it was. Like I would beat myself up for doing something that was wrong. And so she didn't need to do it.
Yeah. There you go.
Anyway, so the overarching thing with all of this is like grounding just doesn't work. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear other opinions for people who say, well, no, it works for me.
Yeah.
I'm very successful now because I was grounded.
Yeah.
I've learned right from wrong because I was sitting in my room for 2 weeks.
Right.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
So anyways, Alan, if they have feedback or questions, what should they do?
They should email us, podcast@dudestodads.com, or hit us up on social media, Twitter @DudesToDads, Facebook, DudesToDads.com. Please go to YouTube and watch the Dad University videos, especially the one that was just mentioned about punishment on video 6, I believe you just said it was.
I'm not sure what number.
And then also, please go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and any other place you see us, and leave us a review and a thumbs up and a 5 stars or whatever else is on there. All of it, as it always helps perpetuate the show.
Awesome. Well, Alan, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.
See you next time.